My name is Ilgin. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a filmmaker based in Istanbul. I'm from here. I lived in the US for quite a while, and then I came back here. For the last 3 years, I've been based here, and that's where I shot this film.
What's the film community like in Turkey?
It's quite big, actually, because we have a pretty big, we have a lot of film industry in the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, but then also now we have a huge TV industry where, Turkey's maybe the largest exporter of TV shows, melodramas to the world. We've surpassed the telenovelas at this point. So there's a big industry. There's a lot of people working on set. In terms of more like indie filmmaking, it's a smaller subset, but there's still like a big indie filmmaking community here for sure. And people tend to help each other out a lot because we don't have a lot of funding for a lot of stuff.
Well, one of the things that I really loved about everything between us is that there's a lot of space in the narrative for the viewer to interpret things. I don't know that there is any dialogue between your two main characters.
There's words exchanged, but I wouldn't call it dialogue because it's always one way. It's either Ceren talking to Azra and Azra not responding, or at the very end, Azra does finally speak, but then at that point, Ceren doesn't say anything. So you're right, there technically isn't any dialogue between them, other than written.
As I was saying, I found that it invited me in to sort of interpret what was going on because we weren't being handed it on a platter.
Yeah, I mean that's something I really like in filmmaking in general. I tend to shy away from very like this is what this story is about and this is how you're meant to interpret it kind of which I feel like that's freer in indie filmmaking for sure. Specifically, the reason I didn't want dialogue between them is that's kind of where this idea was born. It was born from the concept of what if there was somebody on the other side of a river and they weren't talking to each like what would it look like for these people's relationship to develop over time without spoken communication. And the idea came from when I lived in LA for a while, and the LA River is quite wide, and I would go sit by there often, and one day I just was like, oh, what would it look like for someone to turn up on the other side and kind of try and keep me company, but we wouldn't be able to speak because it's really wide. And then obviously the river in the film is much more narrow. They could speak, but then there's like different barriers. Azra doesn't want to be speaking. She's very closed off in that moment. So that was kind of the challenge that I set for myself at the very beginning of it. But then it turned into something, like you said, that really, I think, opened it up to interpretation and however people wanted to interpret what Azra was feeling.
In terms of Azra's feelings, this just the way she wears a backpack, you can't tell if, at least at first, if the back of her jacket says anger or danger. And
Yeah.
I really liked that because I'm like, okay, this is a clue to who this character is, but which word am I looking at?
I like that as well. It was kind of something that came up once we found the jacket. The danger of it all, it's like, don't approach me. Like everything about her is screaming, don't approach me. But then actually, it's the exact thing that she needs and she wants internally. And I like the anger bit. There's a lot of pent up anger, which I think just when you're a teenager happens in general. But then, certain circumstances kind of maybe accentuated that for her.
Her relationship with her mother is really where we see that pent up emotion most. The things are better with the sister, but with mom, there's this inability to communicate as if there were a river between them.
Mm, I like that interpretation. Like there is spoken communication, but they're not seeing eye to eye. Definitely, the sister is the middleman, kind of like making peace between the two. She's the good kid, she did everything as was told. And Azra is kind of the rebel. She's the younger sibling who's trying to branch out, and that's really difficult for the mom. Um, it's interesting. I had a hard time kind of balancing, like I didn't want Azra's family environment to just be like hashtag traumatic, like everyone's screaming. Because, you know, again, all the Turkish TV series dramas, like it's like that's not what's happening here. The mom is actually like quite fine. You know, it's not a really, really intense household, but the issue there is that they don't understand her because they have different perspectives on life. And also maybe Elsa doesn't understand the mom. The mom is, you know, single mom working. She's just trying to get her kid through school. That's kind of what she's focused on. So there is a river between them in that sense. Yeah. And then with the sister, there's a little bit more nuanced of a relationship, but even with the sister, no one fully gets her.
Yeah.
I did have some people say, well, what's the issue at home? You know, like it's fine. The sister's nice, but it's like, that's not, it's something beyond that. The understanding that, you know, she's showing a side of herself at home that's different than the side of herself she's showing outside or at school.
Yeah, absolutely. When the sister is cutting her hair, it's not, here, let me give you the haircut that you want. It's, let me see if we can appease mom together, so that
Totally.
that tension gets diffused a little. And that's those, what you're saying. That's not the same thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the haircut she wanted was the red streaks in her hair. Um, and yeah, it's the haircut that mom wants. It's the haircut that society wants. Like, I think that's also when I was writing the script, it's always the second layer. I think in certain societies more than others, here for sure, it's like, what will the neighbors say? What will people say? So that's also in the back of mom's head. You know, mom isn't a villain. She's just like trying to function within these spaces as well. So it is kind of like, I was thinking about how every single one of these women are being kind of like squished into a certain box. And it is the proper haircut. We're trying to fix what you did, the damage that you did here.
I can really easily put my head into that space of, you know, I'm a single parent. I come home from work and my daughter's been disciplined at school again, you know, and that's, you know, that's, as you say, that's not an unreasonable person going off on the teenager. It's like,
Mhm.
oh my God, one more thing to deal with.
It's definitely a thing of like not being able to see eye to eye, not realizing why she's acting up. Or if it was acting up, you know, she also says that she defended herself. She was being bullied. She was just standing up for herself. But oftentimes in those situations, people who are reprimanded aren't the bullies, unfortunately.
What is the overall climate in Istanbul for queer people? Is
It's been changing.
Yeah.
There was a moment in time where it was great. Like I think 2014 was maybe the last Pride parade that we had, and then since then it's been a protest. Like since then it's been deemed not illegal. You know, what do they call it? Like it's not legal for you to do this parade, basically. But people obviously still have been doing it, so it's just been more tension with police, 2015 and onwards. But up until then, there was, you know, I think there was a moment where this was kind of a haven for a lot of people in the Middle East. Like a lot of people escaping from other places, a lot of queer people would come here. And still, I think it's better than most places in the region. But in my, what I've seen in the last 3 years, which has been really sad, is that everybody's leaving. Last year, they came out with this concept of like family year. So it was like every queer film screening was canceled. There were crackdowns. Like it's getting more intense as of
Wow.
last year. And, you know, the last 5, 10 years, people have been kind of immigrating to Europe. So honestly, a lot of Turkey's, that's also affecting the film industry. A lot of Turkey's like film people, musicians, artists who are all queer, a lot of them are queer, they're in Europe or other places. So that's kind of the climate where we're in certain small spaces still existing, but the spaces are getting smaller, which parallels the US.
Tell me about, and I had to actually pause to pick this out, but tell me the significance of Ursula K. Le Guin.
Yes. Well, she's iconic. I read The Dispossessed when I was 16, so I was Asda's age when I read it first. The book that they're reading in the film, and it changed my life. I mean, it's for anyone who hasn't read the book, it's basically presents a different type of world. It's like where there is the Earth, it's obviously they're called different names, but there is the Earth that we know, this capitalist society with gender roles and like everything as we know it. And then the planet that we're introduced to at the beginning of the book, all of that is destroyed. So both from a perspective of like seeing an anarchist society, how that functions, and Ursula is critical of things as well. It's not presented as a utopia. But I think what really was like mind-blowing for me was the gender roles, the lack of gender roles. As a little queer baby, not even realizing, I was like, this is so cool. I didn't know this was even an option. And so that was like a mind-blowing book for me. And then obviously every subsequent book that I read of hers, I have a quote of hers like right up here in front of me. But that's like the personal reason. And then also more the story reason. I like the concept of Jedan kind of opening up a world for Azda in that way. Like, because, in school, she's being bullied by these people. At home, she's not really understood. She doesn't really have an outlet where she would be able to be herself. And I think it's cool that like that book kind of becomes the avenue for her to be like, oh, I love this book and she's reading this book and maybe we could be friends. And, obviously she's also kind of into her, but, I think it, for me, represents that like other world that opens up for Azda.
Well, they share literature and music, right? They here listen to this song that I've been finding some comfort in. So the idea that art can bridge that distance between you, that's what art's all about.
Totally. Yeah. The music is the first kind of like I'm a friend. I listen to similar music as you. I want to be friends. It's the first step.
Just to wrap things up, let me give you a chance to do some shout outs. Other folks who helped you get this film up and running.
Oh, so many. I mean, my producer, Sula, who I met here, her and I kind of just did this whole thing together. If it wasn't for her, this wouldn't have happened because it was like a tiny little idea in my head. And I went to her and I was like, it wasn't even a script. I was like, what do you think of this idea? And she was like, let's do it. Sounds cool. And she helped me develop the script. We did it together. It's our first film for both of us. So definitely her. And then every single person here that worked on it, I was mentioning at the very beginning, people here are really down to help out with short films and indie films because there isn't any funding. And I happened to come across really, really incredible people who love the story and just, we're either volunteering or working for small, which, everyone should be paid their fair wage if they're able. But in this world where nobody's helping us out, I think that was really, really important that it was just such a community effort. And we worked with really incredible people on set and outside of it, everyone who helped us out. So, and the people who donated, it's completely crowdfunded.
Well, Ilgin, thank you so much for the time. Thank you. Thanks you for forgiving me for my original scheduling screw up.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Thank you so much. This was lovely. I hope the festival's great.